All right, welcome back. This is episode 2 of going through the 14 defining characteristics of fascism. In the last episode, we went over the first tenet, which is powerful and continuing nationalism. And today, or this episode, we'll go through disdain for the recognition of human rights. Because of fear of enemies and the need for security, the people in fascist regimes are persuaded that human rights can be ignored in certain cases because of need. The people tend to look the other way or even approve of torture, summary executions, assassinations, long incarcerations of prisoners, and more.
Now we got to talk about how that pertains to the United States.
Yeah, I haven't seen
we love human rights in this country, right?
Right. And every time I see the long incarceration of prisoners, and my first thought is, of course, this is nothing new. This is something we've had for, well, all of the criminal justice system in the U.S. and the, things that are being ignored in cases of need, which we've seen, especially with longer prison sentences for African Americans or for Hispanics or in natives, more than we see for, obviously, white Americans. So this is one of those tenets that's always been part of the United States.
It is, and we should be clear. Like, there's all kinds of statistics out there you can go look up from different sources that tend to be at odds with each other. Like the FBI and the ACLU, they agree on this one. Black people get longer prison sentences, and a lot of this stuff they all agree on. They all do these studies and they all come to the same conclusions. So, you can't say like these are biased studies, this is liberal propaganda or whatever, I mean, a lot of different organizations with competing agendas come to the same conclusion when they study this.
Absolutely. I always look up the Marshall Project. That's what I'll always throw out there. I use that in class. One of the bigger ones that a lot of people don't seem to understand is that when it comes to the death penalty, about 90% of those who are sentenced to the death penalty they are a person of color who have killed a white person. It's very rare to occur the other way around. Most people don't realize that. But so even along the sense of our own executions and how we use them in the U.S., very similar.
And I assume since we care so much about human rights, we probably have one of the lowest prison populations of all the countries in the world, right?
Right.
Of course. We're America the free,
Actually, we're the largest. And we're bigger than... Does anyone know there's an actual statistic compared to other countries? Like
to the next three. To the next three.
We're as big as the next 3 countries.
Combined.
Yes.
That includes China and Russia.
That includes China. Absolutely. I wanted to make sure that you knew that includes China. And
China's population is less than the United States?
No, not. I think it's like, 4 or 5 times as much?
Yeah. China is a lot of frickin' people. So, we have this massive prison population, and when a country has this many people in prison and puts them in there for so long and then sets things up so that if they get out, it's basically set up so you're bound to fail. We have this high recidivism rate because once you get out, you have this mark on you that makes it impossible to get housing, impossible to get a job, and then we wonder why drug dealers go back to drug dealing. I mean, I know people who had their lives together and, went to jail when they shouldn't have. You hear this, everybody thinks they're innocent in jail. No, some people actually are, because I know people who were. And then once they got out of jail, like, they haven't been able to get back going on the straight and narrow, and this is why people go to a life of crime, because what are you supposed to do when you can't get housing? You can't get a job. We're in a distressed job market, and employers have a lot of leeway as far as who they're going to hire. Do you think they're going to hire somebody with a felony?
Yeah, I think it's set up like that because our prisons are for profit.
Well, yeah.
It's like a store. If you don't have customers, you don't make money. If they don't have inmates, they don't make money.
And can I just address a point that is going to be brought up by somebody out there listening who disagrees with us? They're going to say, well, most of the prisons are still public. They're not private. Well, that may be true. We said for profit. We did not say private. In private prisons, the whole for profit thing is even worse. But our government-run prisons are for profit. They put inmates to work, making license plates, furniture, whatever, and they pay them pennies for it.
And they charge the inmates up the ass for simple things like a phone call. Everything's for profit in both prison systems, private and public.
And there's an economy around prisons, It's like if you have a loved one in prison and you want to go visit them, you're going to spend a bunch of money and it's going to go to the prison. It's not just commissary. It's not just phone calls. You go to the town where the prison is, and you will find that there are financial ties. There's connections between the greasy spoon you go eat at and the hotel you stay at, and the prison. So it's basically an extortion ring. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously dangerous people need to be put in a separate place from the rest of us, but that's not what's going on with our prison system today.
Also, most of the people that are in our prison system are not dangerous. They are arrested for nonviolent drug crimes.
Yes.
And mental illness can be treated with funding, and people would need to be in prison for some violence could be avoided through medication and therapy and stuff.
Well, yeah, and there's countries where they do that, and it's been very cost effective.
Yes, Portugal is a big example. If anybody wants to look up Portugal, it's fantastic on what they've done with legalization, or actually I should say decriminalization. There is a difference. Decriminalization of drugs, and then actually focusing on getting help. And of course, not even just that, but once it's decriminalized, the amount of usage even goes down.
Right, and so, and people say, well, all those treatment programs and stuff, they cost money. Y'all don't realize how much a prison cell costs, how much it costs to incarcerate somebody, how much it costs the taxpayers. I encourage people to go look it up.
Yeah, and then you have people that don't make it out of prison, like Sandra Bland and a lot of others. But the thing is, it's not just prison. It's the refusing to recognize human rights goes way past prison. Is what I'm trying to say. We torture people here. Our police are murdering people in the streets. Look what happened. I mean, look what happened in Standing Rock.
Well, yeah,
human rights are low on our list of important things to think about. War is very important. We could fund that like crazy, but human rights not so much. Even healthcare. They don't want to give people healthcare. They want you to go broke trying to stay alive, sell your house and lose everything, and then die after they've basically taken everything you have. Instead of saying, oh, you pay taxes, we're not going to spend all this money on these wars that are just for profit for these rich people. We're going to give you guys some health care. We're going to let people have some rights. It goes so much deeper. Like Gail just gave us the article you just sent us about the tortures and the book coming out and all that stuff. Our country was cool with torture.
I was going to bring that back up, yeah, especially because, I mean, with the torture report that was released, of course, I shouldn't say released. We only got like 500 pages out of 6,000, and it was heavily redacted. But it's not something that is unknown. We know that our military tortured, specifically in the early days of Iraq, or actually probably throughout most of the days of Iraq. And we also know that Trump has discussed over and over again how he wants to bring that back, even as his top generals say, that's not a good idea. He campaigned on bringing torture back. He campaigned on bringing waterboarding back. And he's continuously said it to where even the most senior UN human rights official has accused him of quote unquote flirtation with torture, something that could lead to an increase in its use around the world. So, I mean, it does still come right back to where we are today, but it's not only going to be based on Trump. We've seen this in our past.
We have. I mean, like, you have the Guantanamo Bay shit that started under Bush, and Obama was less into torture, but he did a lot of. He was the guy with John McCain who authored the bill that said the White House can order the assassination of any U.S. citizen.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Obama said, "Why torture when I could drone?"
Well, exactly. So Obama wasn't any better for any Obama-loving friends out there. He wasn't any better when it comes to human rights and due process.
I completely agree. I do want to bring up the fact, though, that Trump has killed more civilians in 6 months in Syria and Afghanistan than in Obama's 8 years.
This is true.
In those two countries or total?
Just in those two countries total. Total together.
That makes more sense because I don't think total Trump is caught up yet.
Right. And so that's really where we're sitting. We have all this stuff going on, and it's important to recognize, like was said earlier, this has been a part of the condition of the United States for a very long time, with the incarceration rates and the disproportionate by race and this sort of thing. It's gone up a lot since 9/11. And I think as we go through these, it's important to note we were walking a slow, steady path towards fascism before 9/11. Since 9/11, 3 presidents in particular have really just kicked it into overdrive. We were walking that path. We're running that path right now. We are running smack into the wall of fascism.
Yeah, and it's not just torturing of enemy combatants overseas either. I mean, it was, a couple weeks ago we got a video of these cops had a dude chained to a chair and were tasing the crap out of him. And one of the cops said, "I'm not going to stop till the battery's dead."
And that's so common within our prison system. We see videos all the time that come out like that. And then let's not forget, solitary confinement. I mean, that alone, there's no other industrialized nation that uses solitary confinement. We've been called out by every other nation. We've been called out by the United Nations that this is actual torture. You have people who've been in solitary confinement for 35, 40 years. I think it was just this last Friday we talked about Albert Woodfox being one of the examples of that. But that is pure torture.
And I think a lot of people have this perception that, okay, well, this is like extreme cases in prisons with, really hardened criminals, and they probably have to do it for security and so on and so forth. It's certainly not happening. It's not a normalized thing, is what people are thinking. And to them, I have 2 words: Homeland Square.
Yep. Yeah. And my 2 words would be Khalif Browder.
Right. Most people don't know about these things, but they're real. I mean, Google Homeland Square, HOMAN Square. You have to Google it, because if I tell you about it, you won't believe me. In fact, I'll prove it. There was a torture facility where people were not given a lawyer, and they were interrogated and they were tortured in Chicago. And I think it might still be there, but this happened. This was like a standard law enforcement practice in Chicago. Bring people to this facility. Your family doesn't even know where you are. They can't get a hold of you. You can't get a lawyer. The shit happened in Chicago by the police department, not Guantanamo Bay, by the military. And people aren't going to believe me. Just look it up. Google that, and you will find dozens of articles.
Well, that is the thing about fascism. They have excellent propaganda, so they make these human rights violations look necessary. We're keeping you safe, or we're doing this for your good. These people are really bad. This is for terrorism.
Right. Right.
So yeah,
And
I mean, go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
no, please finish. I've been doing a lot of talking here, so.
I was just gonna say, I think right now we've done 2 days worth of shows, and it's 2 for 2. The United States, both of these two tenets of fascism have been true right now in the United States, and for a while. I'm wondering how many more are going to be valid.
Yeah, I'm not a betting man, but I'm just going to bet everything I own on all 14.
Yeah. Well, does anyone else anything else to add to this human rights episode here?
Nope.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and end this. Thank you guys for listening. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about identification of enemies, scapegoats as a unifying cause. So tune in tomorrow and hear the next part of the 14 Tenets of Fascism. Thanks for listening.